London, 1814. People are broke, hungry, and depressed. So naturally, the universe says, you know what this city needs? A beer tsunami. Seconds later, boom, 320,000 gallons of porter explode into the streets. Buildings collapse, people panic, and half the neighborhood tries to drink their way through the disaster. This is the story of the day an entire neighborhood got literally wasted. The Great London Beer Flood. It all began at the Horse Shoe Brewery, right on Tottenham Court Road. Owned by Moo and Company, this was one of the biggest beer producers in London, famous for its dark, rich porter. At the heart of the brewery stood a 22-foot-tall wooden fermentation vat, sealed with massive iron hoops, and holding over 3,500 barrels. That's more than 320,000 gallons of beer, enough to fill half an Olympic swimming pool. Now, this thing was a beast, taller than a double-decker bus and heavier than a herd of elephants. But all that pressure? Yeah, it was a ticking time bomb. On October 17, 1814, workers heard a loud snap. One of the metal rings had cracked. They shrugged it off. These vats made noises all the time. Big mistake. About an hour later, the unthinkable happened. With a thunderous boom, the vat exploded, launching a wall of beer so powerful it blew down the brewery's back wall, smashed open nearby tanks, and sent a 15-foot-high wave of hot, foamy porter roaring into the streets of St. Giles. Imagine standing there, minding your business, and suddenly a literal river of beer comes barreling toward you. Some ran, some froze, and some probably thought, hey, free drinks. But this was no happy hour. The flood tore through the cramped alleyways, collapsing buildings and flooding basements. Within minutes, homes were destroyed. In one house, Mary Banfield and her daughter Hannah were quietly having tea when the beer wave hit. Both were killed instantly. Just down the street, an Irish wake for a 2-year-old boy turned even darker when mourners were swept away. In total, 8 people lost their lives that day, and countless others were left homeless. As the chaos settled, Londoners were left stunned and soaked in ale. The smell of stale beer filled the air for weeks, but not everyone was grieving. Some were celebrating. Crowds rushed in with pots, pans, and hats to scoop up the free booze. Some even drank straight from the gutters. One man reportedly died later, not from the flood itself, but from alcohol poisoning. Talk about going out with a pint. And just when you think it couldn't get weirder, it did. Opportunists started charging people to view the victims' bodies. One overcrowded viewing caused a floor to collapse, sending onlookers tumbling waist-deep into, you guessed it, more beer. When the froth finally cleared, investigators took the brewery to court. Surely someone had to pay for all this destruction, right? Wrong. The court ruled it an act of God. Apparently, even the Almighty loves a good porter. The disaster did, however, change brewing forever. Massive wooden vats were slowly replaced with lined metal and concrete tanks, making future beer tsunamis a thing of the past. The Horse Shoe Brewery kept operating until 1921, but its legacy, and its smell, lingered far longer. Today, the Dominion Theatre stands on that very spot where once 320,000 gallons of beer turned London into one giant pub crawl. So next time you raise a glass, take a moment to toast the people of St. Giles, the unlikely survivors of the Great London Beer Flood of 1814, the most bizarre disaster in British brewing history. Because, as it turns out, you really can have too much of a good thing.